Before we get started, I suggest you either click on the link or download the file for the PDF that I have so you can follow along with my premises. And so waste no time and get started. Alright, so Jeremy Bentham, utilitarianism. Yes. Pain and pleasure are two sovereign masters that nature has placed mankind under, and we must recognize the fundamental role of pain and pleasure in life. Morally permissible acts provide the greatest amount of pleasure for the greatest number while preventing the most pain. The pleasure and pain is determined by using the utility. The principle of the utility is considered by 7 variables of measurement: intensity, duration, certainty, uncertainty, perquisity, remoteness, frequency, purity, and extent. Intensity is a measure of degree of extremity, concentration, or depth. Duration is a measure of temporal continuance, how long does it last. Certainty is a measure of confidence, probability for or against a predicted event. Perquisity/remoteness is a measure of the immediacy of an event. Frequency is a measure of the probability that an event will generate fertilize similar pleasurable events. Purity is a measure of the probability that an event will generate fertilize dissimilar painful events. Extent is the measure of number of people to who extends to or who is affected by. Going on to my issue is whether it's morally impermissible to use capital punishment on a person. Drug is a medicine or other substance which has a physiological effect when consumed or otherwise introduced into the body. Lethal injection is the primary method of execution and the practice of injecting one or more drugs into a person. Barbiturate is a drug that acts as central nervous system depressant. Anesthesia is a sensitivity to pain. Paralytic is a person affected by paralysis. Paralysis is the loss of the ability to move. Potassium solution is a metal halide salt composed of potassium and chloride. Cardiac arrest is the abrupt loss of heart function in the person. Capital punishment is the legal authorized killing of a person as punishment for a crime. Death penalty is another name for capital punishment. Person is an individual human being. Condemned is the person who is going to be executed. Next page. Killing is the action or act of causing death of a person. Death is the act of dying. Dying is the termination of life. Suffer is to experience pain. Punishment is the deliberate and authorized causing of pain or harm to a person thought to have broken the law. Capital crime is any criminal charge which is punishable by the death penalty. Death sentence is a sentence to be put to death for a capital crime. Criminal is the person who has committed a crime. Crime is an act committed in violation of law where the consequences of conviction by a court is punishment, especially when the punishment is a serious one, such imprisonment. Consequences is the result or effect of an action or condition. Conviction is a formal declaration that someone is guilty of a criminal offense made with a verdict of a jury or the decision of a judge in court of law. Guilty is the blame of or responsible for a specific wrongdoing. Justice is the act of being just. Justice based on or behaving according to what is morally right and fair. Prison is a building in which a person is legally held as punishment for crimes they have committed or while awaiting trial. Death row is the place which is often a section of prison that houses prisoners awaiting execution. Homicide is when one human being causes the death of another. Unconstitutional is not in accordance with a political constitution. The United States is one of the 31 states that still allows the death penalty. Morally permissible, meaning the moral we would agree with it. It is morally permissible to use capital punishment. The legal authorized use of capital punishment to kill someone's punishment for a crime will affect the following: the condemned, the family and friends that could condemn, such as the mother, father, brother, and sister, etc. Family and friends of the victims, and the physician, which is the doctors. The effects of using lethal injection of the condemned as capital punishment. Intensity, the lethal injections to kill the condemned when they are in capital punishment. It contains one or more drugs into a person, typically a barbiturate, paralytic, and potassium solution. The execution protocol for most jurisdictions authorize the use of a combination of 3 drugs. Next page. The first, sodium tipol or sodium protanol, is a barbiturate that renders the prisoner unconscious. The second, percuminium bromide, is a muscle relaxant that paralyzes the diaphragm and lungs wall, which stops the breathing. The third, potassium chloride, causes a cardiac arrest in the heart. These negative effects of the lethal injection cause intense effect of the condemned health. Duration, the lethal injection will go into effect right away, causing a medium death, which will take from like 5 to 10 minutes to be completed. 20 states authorize lethal injection as the sole method of execution. 16 other states provide for lethal injection as the primary method of execution, but provide other alternatives depending upon the choice of the inmate, the day of execution or sentence, or the possibility of the method being unconstitutional. Per crudity, the death row inmates wait an average at least 178 months, roughly 15 years between sentencing and execution. For crudity, lethal injection could cause the condemned to be conscious or reduce pain. Anesthesia is used to prevent pain so the condemned will not feel an injection of drugs before the process begins. The extent of being on death row can last up to 15 years due to the fact it provides an alternative methods depending upon the choice of the inmates, the day of the execution or the sentence, or the possibility that the methods are being held unconstitutional. The effects on the family and friends of the condemned. Intensity. Capital punishment can have a negative effect on financially, mentally, and physically on friends and family. Financially, the money being spent on the death penalty can be used elsewhere, such as education or health. The money comes from taxpayers and the family and friends of the condemned, who we assume are 18 years or older of age with a job who will pay taxes. The case where the death penalty is set up to be $1.26 million, maintaining each death row prisoner costs $90,000 more per year than a prison in regular general population. Mentally, if someone has committed a capital crime, they must face the consequences of being executed, which could take longer than it should, and have to spend the remainder of their life waiting on death row. They can miss out on the last remaining part of their life to spend with their friends and family without having to think about their death. Physically, the length of time convicted murderers wait for the execution is steadily rising in the United States, raising concerns that more will suffer from the mental illness known as death row syndrome. This health issue can limit the interaction with others, tend to cause depression, the loss of a friend or a family member can result in loss of relationship or closure. Duration. Given the outcomes and intensity and the effects on the relationship continue to happen if the person was to visit the prisoner. This will allow the visitor to engage with the condemned, allowing to share their views, stories, get closure, and spend as much time they can before the time is up. Frequency. Sincerity. Since 2008, almost 90% of all U.S. executions have been by lethal injection, which most people are getting executed. We should expect the numbers to rise in the upcoming years, where certainty of affecting families and friends will rise as well. Frequency. The timing in which the family and friends is affected by the condemned is different to each individual depending on how each reacts to the situation. Frequency. The effects of using lethal injection of condemned as capital punishment is the most common method used to put condemned inmates to death today. This can prevent or reduce the number of people to commit capital crimes. Purity. Although in contrast to frequency, having a family member or friend not in jail and constantly getting in trouble with the law can have a negative influence. Extend. The space created by the condemned and their punishment can have a lifetime negative effect on family and friends. Given the intensity and duration, certainty, purity, and the extent of the use of the lethal injection, in conclusion, that this act can cause more pain than pleasure, means that if it brings more pain than pleasure, then it should be illegal and unconstitutional. For family and friends of the victim, intensity, given the effects of using the lethal injection of the condemned as capital punishment, the execution can affect the family and friends of the victim. If more victims of the violent crime, the usual response to a homicide is crisis. The death notification process was a crisis response in families of murder victims, and a crisis response has both an emotional and physical response. Emotionally, the family is dealing with the loss of their loved ones. Grieving can occur from the moment they learn about the death and can last, depending on the individual, up to a lifetime. This health issue can limit the interaction with others and tend to cause depression. Duration. Given the effect of intensity and the effect it has on the relationship, can no longer continue. As a result of the victim being deceased, the family and friends have to continue to suffer and grieve over the loss and have to see the condemned is still alive. There are a number of factors that might contribute to how long it takes to feel better again. The most common include the quality of relationship with the deceased, the amount of personal bond associated with the loss, and the extent of unresolved issues in relationship with the deceased. Since 2008, almost 90% of the U.S. Execution have been by lethal injection. With more people getting executed, we should expect the numbers to rise in the coming years. The certainty of it affecting families and friends of the victim will rise, as well as most of them will just want the justice for the victim. Per quantity, the time in which a family and friend is affected by the loss of the victim is different to each individual, depending on how each of them reacts to the situation. From executing grace, most victims were against the death penalty, and most would want to do the same to the condemned. The punishment does not aim towards any justice. The effect of using lethal injections on the condemned as capital punishment is the most common method used to put condemned inmates to death today. This can prevent or reduce the number of people to commit capital crimes. Purity. However, contrary to franquity, having families or families that are no longer alive and where homicide can have a negative impact. The loss of a life was caused by the condemned and their actions can have a lifetime negative effect on the victim's family and friends. Given the intensity, duration, certainty, purity, and the extent of the use of lethal injection, in conclusion, this act causes more pain than pleasure, which means that if it brings more pleasure than pain, then it should be legal in the Constitution. Given the effects of using the lethal injection on condemned of punishment, the execution can affect the physician who performs the procedure. These physicians are not killing their patients, but they are accompanying them in their final moments of life. A physician can do nothing to change that, and all of that can be offered through professional care during the final moments of life. Duration. If the effects of using the lethal injection of the condemned as capital punishment is legal, then a physician will have to include the risk of killing an inmate in the prison for as long as the lethal injection seems more humane than another method and death penalty continues to be legal. Certainty. The legal authorized killing of someone as punishment for a crime, for the certainty, just like condemned, we can expect the death penalty to still be legal the following day. Perpetuity. The job of the physician is to make sure the condemned experience the least amount of pain during the process of the lethal injection. Frequency, as long as the lethal injections are the only methods to be the least painful way to killing a person, then it's very lucky for the state to provide an alternative method that seems more humane. Purity, if the number of condemned being executed decreased, then the government will spend less money. The outcome, the outcome that the condemned and their actions cause can have a lifetime effect on the physician and could be considered a hero to society. Given that intensity, duration, certainty, purity, and the extent of the use of lethal injection, in conclusion, this act causes more pain than pleasure, which means that if it brings more pleasure than pain, then it should be legal and constitutional. Conclusion. Morally permissible act provide the greatest amount of pleasure for the greatest number while preventing the most pain. According to Bentham and his principle of utility, by using several variables of measurement, intensity, duration, certainty, uncertainty, perpetuity, remoteness, frequency, purity, and extent, there is more pleasure than pain. By careful looking at the analysis above, we can show that the legal authorized killing of someone as punishment for a crime created more pleasure than pain for the condemned, family of the condemned, friends and family of the victim, and the physician who performed the procedure. Given that there is more pleasure than pain, it is morally permissible to use capital punishment.